From the elven lands of Lindon, Fimberthiel of the Havens. Centuries spent among the shelves and scrolls of the High King's library in Mithlond have worn you down. Your search for lore left you drained and feeling as old as the earth itself. But before forsaking Middle-earth forever, you decided that, at least once, you wanted to see with your own eyes some of the things you learned about in books. To listen to the wind playing in the trees at midsummer, watch the bright sun shine on the ice of Yule, and discover that there is more to Middle-earth than what you read in your books. You came to walk among mortals for a few more steps before the gray ship sails. Hello, Seekers. Thank you for joining me today, and welcome to Middle-earth. Today marks my return to creating actual plays, and very happy to be here and playing some great games once again for you all. Today's video is going to be in two parts. I'm going to have an introduction / mini review of the One Ring Overhill and Underhill starter set. And the second part, which is going to be the majority of the video, we are going to create our Elven Lord, which is a specific solo mode that it's an official solo mode created for the One Ring. And once we have created our character, then we can get into the adventure, and that will start in the next episode. So a little introduction here about the One Ring and kind of my mini review or thoughts on the Overhill and Underhill, who it might be for and who it might not be for. The One Ring in general, I have not been playing it for a long time, even though I have owned the core rulebook and the Moria book. I've owned those for probably around a year or more at this point. And I enjoyed kind of flipping through them and reading them, but I'd never learned the system. So I have begun to learn the system. Certainly not an expert on it, and I have played a little bit of testing, but there's a lot of depth that you can get into with it. Overall, I really do like the One Ring a lot. I might say that it's my favorite system from Free League, and I think overall I do actually like it more than Forbidden Lands even, and which I do like Forbidden Lands quite a lot, but I think the One Ring is the overall best system from Free League that I have played. So, and then onto the Overhill and Underhill starter set. I think that if you are new to the One Ring, you've never played it, and you want a kind of quick and simple way to get into it, I think it would be really good. If you haven't already learned how to play it, it's a good place to start. I would still recommend picking up the core rulebook, especially if you're playing solo, because without the core rulebook, there's a lot of things that you can't do. One is that you can't create characters, and you cannot create magical items, and there's a lot of other bits of depth that you cannot access, such as the cultural information and stuff like that. So this will give you a nice condensed core rules for journeying and for combat, but you really don't get much else beyond that. So if you are just starting out as a solo player with the One Ring, I think it would be good, but I would also make sure you have the core rulebook as well, just so you can bring some more depth to what you're doing. Now, if you were going to teach other players how to play it, especially players who maybe don't have much experience with tabletop role-playing games, then this starter set would be excellent for that, because it really does get you quickly and simply into the system, and all the rules that they have in here are these are the real rules, even though they're very condensed and they're missing a lot of other rules. But if you learn these rules, they will all translate directly to the core book. So there's no like crazy rules that are made just for this, and that's really good. So yeah, especially if you're going to be teaching maybe some young people or people who are totally new to role playing, this would be an excellent set. And if you're going to be playing, you know, with a group, like with your family, with kids, or with you know, just kind of a casual game night or something with your friends, then this would be a really great place to start, especially if none of you has any experience with the One Ring. So who might it not be for? I think if you're already a pretty experienced One Ring player and you're already a pretty experienced solo player, you're probably not going to get too much out of this, because if you're already an experienced One Ring player, you most likely have the core rulebook and you have other supplements and other books, and you're not going to get any benefit out of this book as far as the rules. And then the adventure itself, it is a nice adventure. I do like what I've seen of it. I haven't seen every part of it, but I've seen the majority of it. And it is a really good beginner adventure, but you're not going to get a whole lot out of it if you're already, you know, kind of an intermediate level player of this game. So yeah, definitely one overall for the beginners, but we can still use it for some crazy stuff like we're going to do today, which is we're going to run a Elven Lord through it and see if an Elven Lord can take on hordes of goblins and orcs and wargs and everything all alone. So we can still make kind of a challenge run out of it, and hopefully it'll be pretty fun. All right, so with that out of the way, let's get into the character creation, and I will talk briefly about our character. So this is Fimberthil, and Fimberthil is a character that comes with the starter set, and of course in the starter set she is not an Elven Lord, but we're going to upgrade her a little bit and bring her up to the level of the Elven Lord. And so I'm using her original character sheet that comes with the starter set. I'm using that as kind of a baseline for the inspiration, but I am making some key changes here and there. And you'll see too that her stats as a Lord are going to be quite a bit more capable than the stats that you have here. And so, but as we go through the character creation, I will use this sheet as a little bit of a reference for anything that we need to kind of fill in that isn't explained by the Elven Lord solo rules. So Fimberthil, she is an elf of the Grey Havens. So she is from over in this area here, and they're known for their naval skills, and of course that's where all the elves you know, go when they sail away from Middle Earth. And their population has been, you know, dwindling as they've been leaving Middle Earth, but Fimberthil is still around, and as you may have heard in the intro, she's a very bookish sort, and fancies herself as a scholar and a lore master. And we're still going to play with that a little bit, but we're definitely going to expand her combat abilities a bit as we build the character. And I'm going to be switching her main weapon. So her main weapon in the starter set is a great bow. That's where she has the majority of her skill, but we're going to be changing that to a great spear and seeing how she does with that. All right, so let's get started on the creation. So we've got our sheet here that we're gonna use to create her as an Elven Lord. So write her name in there, Fimberthil, and then her culture is Lindon. And this is going to be a good time to introduce what I consider to be probably the most indispensable aid that you could get, especially as a solo player, even though it's not actually designed for a solo player, but it's still incredibly useful. And that's going to be Rafamir's Quick Guide. And you can pick this up. I will link to it. You can pick this up. I think it's on itch. I can't remember exactly, but I will link to it. And it does have a suggested price. I think it's around maybe $7, but it is absolutely worth it. We're only using 2 sheets right now for the character creation, but I think there's a total of 14 or 12 or 14 panels. So you've got all kinds of stuff covered, from your journeys to your combat to just everything is all laid out. And then if there's something that you want to reference, in the book, then you have your page numbers here as well. So this is just indispensable and an excellent resource, and it's absolutely worth its weight in gold. And I'll introduce all the other sheets for it in the next episode when we get into the actual adventure. So right now we'll just kind of follow this to go through the character creation. And as I said, with the starter set, you do not have the tools that you need to create a character. So we're going to have to use the core rulebook to do that. And we are also going to be using the Strider mode as well. And the Strider mode is the official solo mode, and you definitely will need this if you want to run any kind of a solo adventure with the One Ring. And it's very good. It's actually very, very good. I think it's one of the best solo modes that I've seen for one of these more large scale epic role-playing games. It's quite a good one. And I have added the Elven Lord rules in here, so we'll just be using that. But the rules do come from the Realms of the Three Rings, and this book is really great for getting into things about the main Elven cultures. I think it's going to be Lindon and Rivendell, and I can't remember if the other one is Mirkwood or... But anyway, you've got quite a lot of stuff about all of the different Elven locations in here and the Elven cultures, and a lot of things that you can explore. And then here in the back you have your Elf Lords for solo play, and that's the weapon that we're going to be giving to Fimberthiel, is a long spear like this. So, but anyway, we don't need this this whole book pretty much. We're just going to have the solo rules here, which I've bound up in this, and this is kind of my overall guide to solo playing here. And so we'll follow that along with some other rules from the Strider mode. And let's start with step 1 on our guide here. So we're going to choose a culture, and Fimberthiel, she already has a culture provided, which is the Elves of Lindon. So we're going to take a look at the Elves of Lindon so that we know how to create our character. In the One Ring, the culture provides a kind of a baseline set of stats and characteristics. So it's very important to reference this when you're creating your character. And the first thing that we are going to do is we're going to choose our attributes. And you typically do not roll them. I believe there may be rules for rolling them. I think it says that you can choose a set or you can roll a success die. We are going to choose a set, and the set that we're going to choose is going to be set number 5, which is 5 strength, 4 heart, and 5 wits. So what we do is mark our strength rating. So we're going to have a strength rating of 5, and our heart rating is going to be 4, and then our wits rating is going to be 5, and that gives us our baseline attributes that we use to derive the other stats for the character. And so, like, for example, endurance, it's going to be strength plus 20. So our strength is 5, so our endurance is going to be 25. So we will write that in. We now have 25 endurance. And then our heart is going to be, our hope is going to be heart plus 8. So that's going to be 12. So we'll have 12 hope points. And then our parry is going to be wits plus 12. So our wits is 5. So our parry is going to be 17. So write down 17 parry. All right, so we can also record our cultural blessing, which is going to be the Elven skill. And if you're not miserable, you can spend 1 point of hope to achieve a magical success on a roll when using a skill in which you possess at least 1 rank. So that's very powerful, actually. A magical success is basically just an automatic success. So our blessing is Elven skill. And then let's go. What is our next step here? We're going to set our target numbers to 20 minus each value. Now this is something where we need to consult the Elf Lords, because the target numbers are not derived from 20. Let's see where it says that in here. Okay, so the previous experience, players creating the Elf Lord receive a higher amount of points to define the previous experience of the character. Oh, sorry, that's where you have points to spend on your skills. Let's see, where does it say here? Okay, so when we make the derived stats, we need to follow the Strider mode rules. And what you do is, instead of subtracting from 20, you subtract from 18. So I know you subtract from 18, but for some reason I am not finding that. Okay, here we go. I found it on page 8. A little bit strange place to put it, I think, but when you're setting your target number for a Strider mode character or a solo character, you will subtract the attribute from 18 instead of 20. So it helps to make the character a little bit more self-reliant. So we'll set our strength target number, and we're going to subtract 5 from 18, and that's going to give us 13. And then we're going to subtract 4 from 18. It's going to give us 14. And then for wits, that's going to give us 13. So these are our target numbers that we are trying to roll equal to or above when we use a strength, heart, or wits based skill check. Okay, and we've already calculated our endurance, hope, and parry, and we're going to record our skill and combat proficiency ratings, and you will find this on the culture page for the character that you're rolling. And we have some baseline skills that are determined for us here. So we're going to start with an awe of 2, and athletics of 2, awareness of 2, and hunting 0, and then song and craft will both be 2. And then we're going to go over to enharden, which is going to be 1. Travel is 0, insight is 0, healing is 1. And courtesy and battle are 0. Then we go to persuade, is going to be 0. Stealth is going to be 3, and that's very useful for a solo mode character. Stealth is very important when you're all alone. Scan, explore, and riddle are going to be 0, and then lore is going to be 3. And then we can choose one skill among the 2 underlined. So lore and song are underlined. We're going to choose lore. I don't know a lot about song, but based on what I know, song is going to be better if you're playing in a group. You're playing with multiple characters, as far as I know. But I'm not too much up on that. All right, so now for our combat proficiencies, we can choose bows or spears. And in this case, we're going to go for spears. So we're going to have a combat proficiency of 2 in spears. And then we can choose one other combat proficiency to have a 1. So we're going to choose bow. So bow will be kind of our secondary weapon, which will give us the ability to attack from range when we have you know, a surprise or ambush type of situation. So all right, so we've recorded our skill and combat proficiency ratings, and now we're going to choose a name, age, and 2 distinctive features. And the distinctive features, as far as I know, these are mostly for role-playing, although there are some features that are related to your calling, which we'll get to next. But I think on Fimbrithrill's character sheet, she has some listed here. Fair, Lordly, and Rhymes of Lore. So Rhymes of Lore comes from her calling, but Fair and Lordly comes from her cultural background here. So we're going to choose the same ones to try to keep her fairly similar to her original character design here. So she's just Fair and Lordly, and those mostly play out. It's kind of a personality trait. It mostly plays out in social interactions and other kinds of reaction type situations. And then we already have our name, and she's an elf, so she's pretty old, and I would imagine as an Elven Lord. Elven Lords are probably older than your typical elf, so she's got to be a couple 100 years old or maybe more at this point. And now we're going to choose a calling. And one thing about the Elf Lords is that you actually choose 2 callings. So players creating an Elf Lord must choose a second calling for their character, and you get 2 additional favorite skills from among those in the calling. And you also get 2 other. You also get another Shadow Path as well. So on her original sheet, she's a Scholar. So we're going to choose Scholar for our first one, and this does have some effect on the different skills that you have. So from Craft, Lore, and Riddle, we can choose one to be a. We can choose 2 of them to be a favorite skill. So we'll go ahead and choose Craft and Riddle. We already have Lore as a favorite skill, and she's going to get a distinctive feature, which is Rhymes of Lore. And I believe that mostly plays into situations where there might be some sort of a lore check, and it's a little bit up to the GM discretion, but it's kind of like an advantage, so to speak, on lore related checks and information and stuff like that. Okay, now we need to choose a second one because we are an Elven Lord, so I think that we're going to go with Treasure Hunter, because that's going to give us the ability to have even better stealth, and I think that's going to be important for us. And then Scan and Explore, I think, is always quite good because it's going to help you to be more aware when you are out in the wild. And we'll be doing a little bit of journeying in this adventure. So, yeah, so we're going to put Treasure Hunter for her second calling. And now she can pick 2 more favorite skills. And when you have a lot of favorite skills, it does make the character a fair amount stronger, because you get more, you get to roll more dice, so you have a greater chance of success. So I think we'll choose Stealth for sure, and then I think we're going to choose. I think we're going to choose Scan, because as far as I know, Scan is more related to avoiding ambushes and things like that, or possibly getting ambushes or surprises. And then we also get the Burglary feature, so she'll get some advantage on thieving type things, and which in this case is going to be more like infiltration, because we're not really a thief, but we definitely would be able to benefit from infiltrating into certain locations. All right, so now we're going to look at our previous experience. Now, previous experience for a standard character is 10, but for an Elven Lord, you have 20 previous experience to spend on your skills and combat proficiencies. So in this case, we definitely want to improve our spear skill, and then our other skills here. And this shows you how much each skill costs. So for spear, if we want to go up to 3, we're going to have to spend 6 points for that. So out of our pool of 20. So we're going to go ahead and spend 6 points. That's going to leave us down at 14. And then I think we'd like to go up 1 in our bow as well. So we're going to spend 4 points for that. So we're now at 10. So we'll now have 10 points to put into our skills. And let's see what we want to increase here. I think we're going to put a point into travel. Put a point into explore. So that's 2 points there. So that we're down to 8 points. And I think we're going to pick... We might go ahead and put 1 more point into stealth, which is going to cost us 6 points. But we're going to have a very, very, very good stealth skill. And so we only have 2 remaining points. Oh, sorry, that was 5 points. So we have 3 remaining points. We'll just put a point into insight, and then we'll put 1 more point into travel. All right, so we spent all 20 of our points there. And we'll go on to the starting gear. So we can select war gear, useful items, and mount. And the items that you can select are based on your standard of living. And I believe that Fimberthil is frugal. Yeah, she is frugal. Now you might be able to make the case that having upgraded her to a lord, maybe she would be common or prosperous. But we'll just stick with frugal for now. And frugal, it's not really that big of an issue. But one thing that it does limit you is that you cannot have a mount. And mounts are pretty useful. But as you'll see in the next episode, the Elven Lord is actually very robust at traveling. So even without a mount, it won't be too bad. But for a standard character, having a mount is actually very helpful. So that's something to consider when you are creating a character. All right, now for our gear, we've got some special rules here with the Elven Lord. Let's also look at our Valor and Wisdom. So we start with a 3 in both Valor and Wisdom. So let's go ahead and put that in there too. Okay, and then now down to our items. We can pick 2 of any of the following items, and we're definitely going to pick a famous weapon. That's going to be critical to our ability to survive. And then we're most likely going to pick a wondrous item for the second one. And normally when you start, you get 3 rewards. And those are usually going to go toward having a little bit better armor or a little bit better weapon. And you have what they call standard rewards, and then you also have enchanted rewards. And enchanted rewards are magical, and they have some very nice abilities in there. So we go to 79 to look at the starting rewards. So here we're going to spend 1 of our reward points to have our armor be close fitting, which is going to give us a +2 to our protection rolls. And as you'll see, that's very useful. So going from Fimberthril's original sheet, she has a leather corselet. So we're going to say that it's a close fitting leather corselet. And on her original sheet, I think the encumbrance of that is 6, okay? And so that gives you 2 protection die, but it's actually going to be 2d plus 2, thanks to the fact that it is close fitting. And then for our weapon, And this is a pretty fun part. We can choose a famous war gear. So we're going to choose a famous great spear. And also famous weapons, I believe you need to name them, yes. So determining the craftsmanship, we're going to say that it's Elven because we are an elf. And we can also choose one Bane. And that's going to be an advantage against a certain kind of enemy. And the Bane that we're going to choose is Orc. And we can pick from enchanted rewards. According to the Elf Lord rules here, you can create a famous weapon with a single enchanted reward or 2 normal rewards. So we're going to go with an enchanted reward, and then also it says that if you choose an option including a famous weapon or armor, you can trade your starting rewards to unlock additional rewards on your magical pieces of treasure. So you normally start with 3. We spent 1 for our close-fitting armor, so we have 2 left. And I'm not really sure if that means that you can use 2. You can trade 2 normal rewards, 2 starting rewards for 2 enchanted rewards. That seems a little bit powerful there. So we'll just trade the 2 remaining normal rewards for 1 more enchanted reward. So we're going to have 2 enchanted rewards on our great spear, and that's going to make it pretty powerful. So the first one we're going to have is Superior Fell, and that's going to increase the weapon's injury rating by 4. And then the one that we definitely want to get is Cleaving. And this is really cool, especially when you're solo, because when you kill a foe, then you can immediately attack a second foe engaged with you. So that's going to be very powerful, and it should be a lot of fun to use that, actually. So we're going to have our great spear. Oh, and we need to name this. And I was thinking about some names before, and I think the name that I'm going to use is Intruder. So our spear is going to be called Intruder. And then we need to add, let's see, because Superior Fell, our injury rating is going to be increased by 4. So let's look at a great spear. And a great spear does 5 damage and has an injury rating of 16. So 5 damage, and our injury rating is going to be 20 because of our enchantment. And then the load is 4. And we're going to put SF for Superior Fell, and then we're going to put CLV for Cleaving, and that's going to be Intruder, our great spear. And then we're also going to have a standard bow, or maybe we should have a great bow. Yeah, let's have a great bow. So we're going to have a great bow, and the great bow has a damage of 4, 16 injury rating, and 4 load. And also the great spear is 2-handed. And the great bow, I believe, is also 2-handed. Yeah. I'm going to put RG for ranged, and then 2H for 2-handed. So she definitely can't hold both those at the same time. She'll have to switch out each weapon as she needs to use them. All right, so we got our weapons set up. We have our armor set up. And now we're going to get to starting reward and virtue. So we did our Valor and Wisdom scores, which are going to be a 3 for an Elven Lord. And then our starting rewards here. We've already done our starting rewards with our weapons and armor. And then starting virtues. I believe the Elf Lord has some different starting virtues as well. Yeah, the Elf Lord, you can have 3 starting virtues, but 1 must be a common virtue. Okay, so let's go look at the virtues. The virtues are pretty cool. Some of these are really nice. They're a little bit like feats or talents. And Yeah, pretty cool. So let's see, where is the... All right, here is our common virtues. So let's look at the common virtues first. We're going to pick one of these. I think we're going to choose nimbleness. We can raise our parry by 1. So let's choose nimbleness. And that's going to give us better defense because we're probably going to be surrounded by multiple enemies. So our parry is now going to go up to 18. And now we can choose two cultural virtues. And I think the first one we want is the Gleam of Wrath. And when you have a successful attack, your adversary loses 1 point of hate or resolve, and then plus 1 point for each success icon, the tongue war icon. And that's really good because the enemies in One Ring, they use hate points or resolve points to activate special abilities. So if you can drain their points, then they can activate special abilities. So I think we're going to pick that. So we're going to have Gleam of Wrath, and got to get one more here. I'm not sure which one to pick right now. I think we might go with Deadly Archery. Oh, but we can't use that with a Great Bow. Okay, so maybe not. Raise our maximum hope by 1 point during the adventure phase. You can become inspired. So that's another thing about the Strider mode, is that you are considered inspired when you're rolling while you're journeying. So all of our shadow tests due to dread are favored. I don't know. I might have to think about that one and decide on it when we return to the next episode. So yeah, I'm going to think about that one. It's not really obvious which one would be best to pick right now. So I'll have to remember that we need to pick one more virtue. All right, let's see where we are on our character creation here. It looks like we're pretty much done. I think that is going to be it. Protection, I'll figure out what the protection score is as well. But yeah, I think that's going to do it. It looks like Fimbrethil is ready to Brave of the Wilds, and in the next episode we will get on to the adventure that is the Overhill and Underhill starter set. So thank you all very much for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed this, and please let me know any comments or questions that you have down below, and see you next time.